just received the Brazil.
Fahad Al Ghareeb, pleasure to meet you. We are not. You're not new to us. We've been working out together, training together for how long now? Since 10 years now.
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years, man. It's been since we had that gym in Tubli up on the second floor.
Yeah.
And me, you, Hamza, Yusuf, Isa, Ayas used to come. A lot of renowned people now in the field.
It's amazing, to today see that for me, what we have been able to do with the blessings and leadership of His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, what we've got the opportunity to do for the sports that we love. When we started training, we didn't know that there's a future for it. We were doing it simply, purely because of passion.
Exactly.
And today, here we are. His Highness has created this massive platform, not just for Bahrainis, but for all of the country, but the rest of the world as well today, creating Brave as the fastest growing mixed martial promotion in the world, traveling to 28 countries. God knows how many athletes are with us from how many countries. But what's really interesting is that today, here we are after more than 12, 13 years, and we are seeing the people that was part of that passion of the sport, training together, wrestling with each other, being in sweat and just getting armbarred and no idea about, what is recovery, what is training, overtraining, none of that. And here we are sitting here today on Hawk's Corner and excited to discuss more about how you, one of those passionate members of Bahrain MMA, is here today, doing amazingly for the whole country, and just not for athletes, but for everybody in the country, doing something that we really required, which is sleep recovery. And your sleep lab is a place that I've been to and I've tested, and our athletes have tested. I'll leave it to you just to give an introduction about Sehatu, yourself.
Sehatu is a multinational company. We operate in California, Bahrain, and Pakistan right now. We're hoping to expand it all over the region. We are the first, we can say, in the region that provides sleep coaches, which is basically a customized or tailored sleep program designed for athletes specifically. And when we're talking about athlete, we're talking about high-performing athletes, up-and-coming athletes, athletes that are aspiring to, or people that are aspiring to become athletes, and even lifestyle people that want to lose weight, for example, or get into a healthy lifestyle. We facilitate in that, including diagnosing, treating existing sleep disorders. As you're aware, sleep is 1/3 of your life is spent sleeping, and it's critical for us to take care of it. Over the past, let's say, 15, 20 years, sleep has been ever constantly growing. It has been ever changing and developing. Back in the days, they used to say, only the respiratory department is in charge of it. It's only breathing. It turns out neurologists are involved. Cardiovasculars and heart surgeons are involved. Psychologists and mental health is involved. ENT are involved. Even dentals are involved in it. So the prevalence of it in all medical aspects are huge. And as it is prevalent in medical field, you can say it's prevalent in everywhere in your daily life.
Absolutely. The key thing that I always thought about is, since we had our first meeting, and it was just in my head that it just didn't stop me from thinking about sleep as a priority. I was a guy, since you know me from the time we used to train, even while we were training, we had to make a living out of training. It's just not training to compete individually, but we also had to take classes. We used to do private sessions. So I used to have my day starting at 3 or 4 a.m. And once I finished my classes, then I used to train myself. And then the other class already starts. And then you have your PTs. And then your group classes starts. And then you have to finish off with your own training. So you don't really care about sleep at that point. And I continued that even into my corporate world. And I thought that if I could do that while I was physically, putting all that stress into my muscles and my body, corporate world is easy. I just had to sit behind the desk and do it, and I continued doing that until I spoke with you. It clicked my head, and we did the seminar with the athletes. Thank you for that. That was a great insight for all the athletes that we had at KHK MMA here in Bahrain. Actually, KHK Sports, we had boxing team, we had the wrestling team, we had all of them. My question really is that the challenges that you go through, because you created the sleep lab, I came to know the importance of it. I mean, we know the importance of sleep. Everybody talks about it. Our parents talk about sleeping early, but we never put that into the priority list in the top three, So as an athlete, we always look at it and say that, training is so important, and when we talk about recovery, we're always looking at the ice baths and those compression shots and all of those things, supplements, of course, Did you face those challenges in terms of educating that where, first of all, what's the challenge in terms of prioritizing sleep? And in your mind and having the expertise of sleep, where do you think sleep should be in the priority list?
That's a wonderful question. First of all, in regards to priority of sleep, let's just put it in this way. Nutrition and training are considered pillars of an athlete, including recovery. But the foundation or the groundwork for all this to be a successful thing is sleep. Again, sleep is the simplest form of recovery. You can sit down and relax, you can meditate, you can put some ice plunge. These are all active while you're awake. But even a person that doesn't work out or trains, the basic form your body recovers is sleep. It's not the ice plunge, it's not this. These help in facilitating recovery. But how your body recovers is during sleep. That's why they say you don't make the gains in the gym. You make it the next day over the time.
Absolutely.
Because your muscles, your body recovers and repairs the tears that you do during your training, during sleep. So that's why sleep is important. And we don't say it's a pillar. It's the foundation that makes training and nutrition work complete. So if an athlete is dieting, having his macros correct, he's having his training with a coach regularly in a constant level, but he's not sleeping, his strength is going to go down. His recovery is going to go down. His immunity is going to go down. And then we talk about the mental level, the cognitive stress that he gets from training will affect him mentally. It can cause anxiety, it can cause depression. Athletes train more than 1 hour, 2-3 hours. The amount of stress they put on their body is huge. And if they do not give their chance to relieve the stress of their body, sooner or later that's going to come back and affect them in one way or another. There's also prevalence with athletes traveling. For example, they travel from, let's say, from Bahrain to Australia. That's a whole different time zone. They think, I wake up, I go train there right away. No, your body's still at a different time zone. You're still at a sleep phase. So even training at the right times of the day, properly managing your circadian rhythm can all help the athlete perform better, increase his performance, accuracy, reaction time. There's so many stuff that sleep can affect. And his immunity, again, an athlete doesn't want to get injured or sick during his camp. And a lot of people say, I just need to focus on sleep during my camp. But no, it's a lifestyle. You have to, as the athlete trains every day at a certain time, eats at a certain time, he needs to go bed at a certain time and wake up at a certain time. And it's a routine and a habit that he builds. That will make him be consistent, and then he can fine-tune the variables. But if an athlete's variables are not concise, he's not able to, and we're not able to assist it as well. So there has to be a mutual collaboration between the sleep coach and the athlete himself, or even the patient, that you have to do it in this way. And the proper way of doing it is waking up early in the morning, going to bed at a certain time. And you build on these small habits. Again, incremental small habits can help become bigger habits and better habits. And these small incrementals will soon become a big result. And an athlete just needs some 0.5% to make a difference sometimes.
Absolutely. No question.
So as far as athletes go, I mean, they say that the typical or the ideal amount of sleep is 7 to 8 hours. I'm assuming that's for a more general sort of person to work at an optimum level. When we talk about athletes and how hard they work, they're training for 2 to 3 hours a day. You know, you're talking about a 0.5% increment. It can make a huge difference. So, in order to get that, do they need to sleep more than the average person? Is 7 to 8 hours ideal, or does it need to be more than that because of the workload?
It depends, honestly. It depends on the quality of sleep. If the athlete is sleeping for a long period of time, the 8 hours without waking up, going to the bathroom, having night terrors, athletes need to have a full sleep. The quality of sleep, when we're talking about it, is the length. So it's not about how short it is; it's about the length and the. I wake up in the morning refreshed. That was a good sleep. Maybe 8 hours are good enough for one person. But maybe there's another person that wakes up 2 to 3 times a day at night. That can affect him in regards of he needs more sleep. He needs to take maybe a nap after training, or he feels tired maybe during the day. If you identify what they call tiredness during the day, then there's an effect that you're not sleeping properly at night or you lack the sleep. So it's a very case by case. Some people get enough sleep from 5 to 6 hours. Some people can't get enough sleep from 8 hours. So it's your body, your hormones that get into play, how much tear and injuries are on your body and stress, how fast your body takes to recover. Again, the best example is everyone here's metabolism is different. So same thing with your sleep. Your sleep quality might be different than Shahid's, different than me, different from athlete A or athlete B. So we need to identify the quality of sleep. Is he getting enough oxygen? Is his heart rate going down? Is he having a lot of leg movements? Is he grinding his teeth? Is he having nightmares? Maybe wet dreams, for example. Is he waking up constantly at night, more than once? Does he need to go to the toilet at night? Again, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you go to the toilet, you wake up.
Yeah, you're disrupting your sleep.
You disrupt it. You have to go back to zero. So if you spend 6 to 8 hours of constant sleep and going through each cycle, which are stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the deep sleep, REM sleep, and you go through this cycle 5 to 6 times, that should be sufficient medically.
But how long does each cycle take?
90 minutes approximately, and it can go up to 110 minutes, but the average is 90 minutes. We noticed a lot of athletes actually suffer from going to sleep, where on average it is recommended or it is advised that it takes you 10 minutes to go to sleep. It should be a natural action from your body. It's dark, it's night, you go to sleep, you wake up when the sun rises. We're not nocturnal beings, we're daytime beings. So at nighttime, your body releases hormones that induces sleep. For example, melatonin, serotonin, and all these. When you wake up, your body pumps in energy to give you that's why sunlight's also important, that you get enough sunlight. Some people don't get sunlight, and that affects their internal body clock and hormonal cycle, which then affects everything else.
Because it doesn't signal to them to then get the sleep.
Exactly. Right. That's why using your phone before sleep can affect your sleeping habits, because the light from the phone, television, or any type of light source fools your body into thinking it's daytime. So you're more likely to have difficulty to go to sleep if you're on your phone. So habits do build.
How do you counteract that? I mean, for an athlete, I suppose it's easier because your life is centered around being an athlete. So having the discipline to not go on your phone at night there's incentive to do so. When we talk about the corporate world and general people, so to speak, that aren't athletes, they don't necessarily have the discipline, but two, their job may demand them to be on the phone at night just before they go to bed. They may have an urgent call or an email or a message to respond to. So if that's non-negotiable, how do you mitigate the effects of that? Is it blue light blocking glasses? What can you do if it's non-negotiable?
these can help, like for example, the glasses. There are some devices, treatments. But what we always advise is having a habit or a routine. Um, Human beings are based on habits and routines. If you're used to waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning, going to sleep at 10 o'clock at night, sooner or later, after a week or two, your body builds the habit of, oh, I need to go to sleep. At 10 o'clock, your body shuts down. At 8 o'clock, your body wakes up. You don't need an alarm to do it. Your body will naturally wake up at that time. If you do it more than once or more than a few times, your body builds the habit. That's why they tell you, I think in training, they train at the same time. They build the habit of training at this time. Their body gets pumped during that time. And we're based on habits and routines. Athletes, for example, like you said, are very routine basis. So their diet is counted. They count every single macro they take. Their training program is managed by their coach, and it's organized in a way where it's a continuous learning and a routine. Same thing with sleep. He needs to sleep at a certain time, wake up at a certain time. We know athletes like to sit on social media sometimes and talk to other athletes and cause some noise in regards of that. But it's always advisable that you should not touch your phone for the next 2 hours. Caffeine is also a factor. Some athletes train late at night. Well, if their body allows it, by all means do. But after training, your body temperature, you're actually pumping a lot of blood.
And your endorphins are high.
Yes. So you're less likely to go to sleep if you try to sleep after training. Some people get really tired and they're mentally exhausted from the training and their body's fatigued to the point where, they just crash because they're lacking sleep in regards of that as well. So it's a give and take. That's in regards of athletes. But people on their daily lives, the best way is to just build habits as well.
I think you have to be disciplined, right? In the end of the day, he's talking about, yes, you could. It is, when you say it's non-negotiable, you're not negotiating your life. I mean, your life is at line, and you want to be healthy or not. And I think that's ultimately sleep is a discipline. None of us really want. We would love to watch our Champions Leagues wherever we are in the part of the world. We want to watch our footballs or we want to watch our fights, and that's something that depends on what time zone you are. It does affect us, but why shouldn't you have your pizzas and watch football, and instead of that, have a healthy dinner early and go to sleep? I mean, it is, I think, in the end of the day, discipline is a big part of sleep. But where one of the challenges I always feel is, even for athletes, I'm sure that you can relate to it, Sam. When we have the fight weekend, the events happening, weight cuts, you lose a lot of water from your body, right? And when you lose a lot of water from your body, you're cutting weight. You know that there's going to be a weigh-ins tomorrow. There's going to be fights coming up. There's a lot of stress in your mind and stuff. So you sometimes you lie down in your bed. You don't have your phone. You want to get out of everything. You don't want the world to know you exist. You just want to hide out and be in your cave and just be relaxed. But you're relaxed, not in your head. In your head, you're thinking of how am I going to win this fight? The 20 different ways how he's going to approach you. Your mind is constantly working, and you can't get your sleep. Sure, is there? My question really would be: I would love to understand, because I'm one of those people that sleeps, and I when I wake up, I feel like I haven't slept, because that many times I must have woke up that I can every second I know what happened. So at 1 o'clock that happened, at 2 o'clock. So all whatever time I go to sleep, and I know that that's something Sehatu and the lab here is for everybody, whether it's athletes, whether it's individuals like myself, that we all need to have healthy, I don't know if that's the right word, but the right type of sleep, not just sleep itself, but whether you sleep 8 hours, 10 hours, or 6 hours, how good is your sleep, and how can we make that sleep as good as it should be? If I do sleep on the right time and I have the discipline, but I can't get the proper sleep, how can your lab or yourself help us get that?
That's a wonderful question. So basically, the first step is doing a screening program. The screening basically identifies or helps our specialists or sleep coaches identify the issues or the pre-existing conditions that might be with you. First of all, for example, you're having difficulty waking up, you have tiredness during the day, you're waking up during the night. So we have to tackle these problems from the core. For example, are you waking up to go to the bathroom? Or are you waking up because of nightmares? Or are you waking up just because you couldn't breathe. So we need to identify what's the cause of this, the cause and effect, or the root cause of this problem, and then treat it. For example, there are positional therapies where you sleep in a positional because sleeping on your back is not good for you. For example, some people can sleep on their legs, some people can't.
Sleeping on your back.
I thought it was good for you. I sleep on
It's
my
a-
back every night.
It's not an issue. It depends from one person to the other. Some people are more likely, if they're overweight, to when they sleep on their back to suffer from choking. They
Okay.
cannot breathe. They likely sleep to the side. Some people have grindiness of teeth, and that causes them to wake up with a migraine. Some people have what they call PLM, periodic leg movement, and that could be a neuromuscular indicator, for example, that there's some pre-existing problem in the neurology department where a neurologist needs to look into. Like you said, you sit down and you can't go to sleep. Sleep should be a natural form. It should
You
not
just
be induced.
scared me when you was giving the points. I was like, that's me with everything, you know. I've got it all one by one.
Tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, so you have, for example, going to sleep should be a natural form. What you're talking about is stress and anxiety that comes into play with everyone. Today's world, we're hit with so much noise and chatter during the day that your brain takes a long time to process all this. So when you're going to sleep, you start to rethink, oh, did I do this today? I forgot to do that. Why did I do that in the training? My coach said this to me, or this guy wrote some article about me, and it just keeps rolling in your head. The idea is there are techniques that our sleep coach can train you with in regards of setting yourself to go to sleep. Because when you go to sleep, you need to shut all this out. You need to say, this is my sleep time. This is my recover time. I can handle this in the morning. I shouldn't be thinking about this because if I'm thinking about this, I'm not going to sleep and it's not going to help. If you think about it, no matter how much you think before sleep, you're not helping or you're not coming up with a solution. All you do is rolling it over in your head. And that just causes you stress, keeps you thinking, gives you night terrors maybe as well, or nightmares. And the idea is there are simple techniques like breathing. There are devices now that are recent that provide assistance for insomnia that can help put your body into this. There are supplements now over the counter and prescribed. And there are many more devices that can help you go to sleep. And if you wake up and you feel that I didn't have enough sleep, there's a lot of indicators to that. And normally the sleep physician or a sleep specialist would be able to identify the root cause of that.
So how do you identify? Because I'm a single guy who's not married, so I don't know what's happening to me while I'm sleeping, right? So how can I identify what are my issues in my sleep?
The
Should
simplest
I be in the lab?
that is a diagnosis. So first of all, the first step of you is to go see a sleep specialist because they're the ones that are specialized in this and they're the ones that are going to be able to give you the correct advice and treatment of it. So it starts with screening. Then it goes to diagnosis and treatment of the symptoms.
When you say screening, do you mean you have to go and sleep in the lab or how does it work?
A simple questionnaire. It takes 10 to 15 questions of for example, there's something called the Friedman score, which medical users use to score the jaw and how your airway is. So depending on that score, you might need to be prescribed certain treatments for your airway and jaw. For example, some people's chins are forward, some people's chins are backward, some people are prolonged, and jaw structures differ from person to person. And again, this is the main airway passage. So it's an indicator of how you're breathing, for example. Second of all would be screening. We ask questions like Epworth scores. This is basically a medical scoring that identifies when do you feel sleepy during the day? Would you likely fall asleep in the car? Would you, if you're sitting on a chair, would you go to sleep? How drowsy do you get? It's daytime tiredness. And that scoring can help doctors identify and specialists identify what exactly.
And how much is dangerous? Like, if you get the score wise,
Yeah.
is there?
It's out of 24, and any score, a lot of people will score 1 or 2 points, 3 points on this, but the more it is, the higher or the more severe the condition is. Again, sleep specialists are more able to identify the fine bits of it, but again, all of us suffer. We get drowsy reading a book sometimes. Sometimes you watch someone talking and you might go to sleep.
Depends who it is.
Depends, of course. But these factors do play in place that during the daytime, you shouldn't feel tired. Your body has sunlight. You're moving. You're up and energetic. During nighttime, that's more acceptable. But if you're facing it during the daytime, then that screening program can provide a broad line hypothesis for the diagnosis. And then we go to the diagnosis phase. This is where we look into the patient internally, his muscle movement, his brain activity, his breathing. Breathing is a big factor in athletes and everyone. A lot of people that breathe through their mouth during sleep might suffer from some sort of sleep problem. And the best example I can use is the natural way of breathing is through your nose. The reason is it's beneficial is because the nose humidifies the airway that goes into your body. And it helps the air go directly to the brain as well and lungs, which is much needed. Breathing through your mouth indicates, first of all, it will cause dryness of the throat, which can also affect what we've seen with athletes. They get fatigued during their weight cut because they sit in saunas. Sometimes it's recommended if you have dryness of throat during weight cut to go into a steam room. It does the same effect. You're just sweating it out, but you just feel it's more humid. It protects your airway from dryness. That's why when you get a nasal block, the next day your throat hurts you because your nose is blocked. You start breathing from your mouth and there's no humidity. And then you end up with a sore throat the next day after a nasal congestion.
Makes sense.
So again, there are simple indicators that sleep physicians would look into, and they can identify exactly what it is.
I've seen a lot of people, now you're talking about the nose breathing, I've seen a lot of people training these days with mouth tape on so that they have to breathe through their nose. I mean, I've tried it, it's brutal. But would you recommend doing that for sleep as well?
Not doing taping your mouth is not recommended at all.
I know some people do it. I'm just wondering, as an expert, if it's worthwhile or a step too far, maybe.
It could be more of a training, like how they use with the mask to limit airway flow to increase stamina, for example.
Right.
But overall, the natural way of breathing is through your nose. If you breathe from your mouth, that's mean you have a nasal congestion. It could be a surgery that you need to open up. Like you said, some people have broken noses. They can't breathe from that. And it affects them. Even in fights, for example, if we want to talk about in the MMA world, when you see an athlete tired, he's not going to breathe from his mouth. He's going to open his mouth guard and start breathing from his mouth. And you can tell that your opponent is tired at that point of time. You can know that he's fatigued. Even commentators open it up. And he's more likely to get knocked out because his jaws are not tight. Mouth guards can start flying out of the mouth as well. So, and we've seen that happen multiple times in events as well. So the nose breathing is a very natural way of doing it.
So how do you do it? Like if, like Sam was saying, like if you are a person who snores, who has his mouth open while he's sleeping, what can I do? Like, do you have a device that could help us? Is there a supplement or I don't know? What do you do?
If you have problem breathing and you're breathing from your mouth and not your nose, we first need to see the reason for you to breathe through your mouth. And that's done through the screening and a doctor consultation with a sleep coach. He would look into how you're breathing. What are the reasons you're breathing through your mouth? Do you have a small nose? Do you have a congestion? Allergies, for example. Allergies can be a factor as well, where because I have allergies, I can't breathe through my nose because there's the allergies in the air, or I sneeze a lot, or I built the habit of just breathing from my mouth. Or it could be a habit as well. We might be used to breathing from our mouths as well. Identifying maybe he has one of you guys mentioned the neck.
Yeah,
Could be-
fighters typically have thicker necks.
Yes, that could be a factor where his airway is blocked. So we might need to provide him, for example, with either positional therapy, where he needs to sleep in a certain position where the airway is easier to or opens up wider. He could use a CPAP or a BiPAP or a mandibular device, which pumps in air or opens up the airway for the jaw. There could be even oxygen therapy where, for example, athletes might not have a sleep problem, but during sleep, they lack oxygen in their body. Their oxygen levels drop below 80, 95%. That affects your recovery. You're more.
It's also a little bit crazy to. One of the things that I've always had was sleep apnea, right? Like the idea of thinking of having to go to bed with a huge device. No, it's always. I
Oh,
know.
the
Again, we
big,
spoke
the
about
big
this.
mask thing.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
almost feels like you're in ICU. If somebody walks in and they see you with that mask, I mean, it's it's crazy. But I know that it's about discipline, and we have to do what we have to do. When are we gonna have different devices coming in that might be a little more eye friendly to see someone going through it?
I get you. There are a lot of devices now. There's a recent device called Excite OSA. It does exactly what you're talking about. So normally the treatment for obstructive apnea and breathing disorders during sleep, they recommend a mandibular device, which is just like a mouth guard. They wear it during sleep, and that corrects the jawline and gives more airway.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
Yes, they use them a lot. Athletes is very useful. You don't need to have electric power source. You can wear it anywhere and go to sleep.
It just positions your tongue in the correct place, right?
Your tongue and your jaw. So some
Right.
people have the jaw front, some people have the jaw backwards. Depending if the jaw is back, then you need to extend it to widen up the airway in your mouth. And that just gives more air to go into your body.
Sam's jaw is wide to the sides, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't think you have any
I'm good.
breathing problems.
I'm good.